Most people do not exhaust themselves because they care too much about the world. They exhaust themselves because they are terrified of letting go, of the illusion that they can control it. We bleed our energy into the opinions of strangers, the manufactured dramas of our daily lives, and the infinite anxieties of tomorrow, not out of a profound sense of empathy, but because our own internal foundation is fractured. We care obsessively about the external world because we are deeply afraid to sit in silence with ourselves. Human society is a theater of masks, a vast, complex web of unconscious actors, driven by fear, status, and an insatiable desire for approval. In this theater, the currency of the realm is attention. Everyone is constantly demanding that you care. They demand you care about their outrage, their tragedies, their judgments, and their perceptions of who you are. And if you are not careful, if you do not cultivate the profound psychological armor of detachment, you will spend your entire life as a minor character in the scripts of other people. The art of not caring is widely misunderstood. It is often confused with apathy and bitterness, or called withdrawal from the world. But apathy is merely the mask of the wounded. Apathy is what happens when someone has cared too much, for too long, about all the wrong things, and their psyche has finally collapsed under the weight of it. Apathy is an involuntary numbness. True detachment, however, is a highly conscious act of power. It is the pinnacle of Stoic inner sovereignty. It is the ability to stand in the center of a storm, to observe the chaos of human interaction, the slights, the manipulations, the desperate cries for validation, and to decide with absolute clarity not to participate. It is not the absence of feeling. It is the absolute mastery of where your feelings are invested. To achieve this state of psychological freedom, we must first understand the patterns of the world around us. We must look at the hidden mechanisms of human behavior, not to judge them, but to see them so clearly that they lose all power over us. Human nature rarely announces itself loudly. More often, it whispers through small patterns of behavior, through subtle demands that you surrender your peace of mind to serve someone else's insecurity. Consider the pattern of the chaos projector. You will encounter people who seem to exist in a chronic state of emergency. They are always entangled in conflict, always nursing a grievance, always reacting to some perceived injustice. When they enter your orbit, they attempt to pull you into their vortex. They want you to feel their anger, to validate their victimhood, to care deeply about the drama they have constructed. It is easy to view these individuals as toxic, as emotional vampires seeking to drain your life force. But if we look deeper, beneath the surface of their chaotic behavior, we find a profound psychological insecurity. People who project chaos are not malicious predators. They are drowning in their own unexamined minds. They are entirely disconnected from any sense of internal stillness. Their inner world is so terrifying, so empty or tumultuous, that they must constantly generate external noise to avoid facing themselves. They demand that you care about their drama because your reaction is the only thing that proves to them they exist. They need you to jump into the turbulent water with them because it validates their panic. When you understand this, the desire to react completely evaporates. You realize that their chaos has absolutely nothing to do with you. The calm, intelligent response is not to argue, not to fix them, and certainly not to absorb their frantic energy. The response is to master the power of the pause. You offer them silence or a neutral acknowledgement, and you maintain a deliberate emotional distance. You watch them from the shore. You let them thrash in the water of their own making, recognizing that your refusal to care about their manufactured crisis is the most profound boundary you can set. Then there is the pattern of the constant critic, the individuals who offer unsolicited opinions on your life, your choices, or your character. They operate through subtle passive aggression, veiled insults, or disguised advice. They want to make you doubt yourself. They want to force you to care about their standards and their judgments. It is a very human reflex to feel defensive when attacked, to want to explain yourself, to argue, or to prove your worth. But why do people criticize in this manner? They do not do it from a place of superiority or strength. People who constantly attempt to diminish others are prisoners of their own deep-seated feelings of inadequacy. They feel utterly powerless in the architecture of their own existence, so they attempt to artificially elevate themselves by enforcing a hierarchy upon you. When they criticize you, they are simply projecting their own internalized shame and fear of insignificance onto you. They want to shrink you so that their own smallness feels less painful. To care about their opinion is to accept their projection. It is to take the poison they have brewed for themselves and drink it voluntarily. True Stoic indifference teaches us that we cannot control the thoughts of others, nor should we wish to. Their minds are their own domain, cluttered with their own fears and biases. When the critic speaks, the sovereign mind does not flinch. You do not owe them your anger, and you do not owe them your compliance. A polite nod, a calm smile, and an absolute internal stillness. You allow their words to fall to the floor. Like dead leaves, you withdraw your emotional investment entirely, leaving them alone with the realization that their attempts to manipulate your self-worth have failed completely. We must also be deeply observant of the weaponization of empathy. There are those who will use your goodness against you. They present themselves as helpless, perpetually wronged by the world, and they subtly demand that you carry the weight of their emotional state. They do not ask for advice to apply it. They ask for advice to consume your time. They use guilt to bind you to them, making you feel that if you do not care intensely about their suffering, you are somehow a bad person. This behavior is rooted in a profound fear of self-reliance. They are terrified of taking responsibility for their own lives, of facing the painful alchemy, of growing up and healing their own wounds. It is much easier to farm out their emotional regulation to someone else. They do not want to be fixed. They want to be carried. To break free from this, we must cultivate compassionate detachment. You must realize that you cannot save people from themselves. And more importantly, it is an overstep of your bounds to try. You give them back the weight of their own life. You can wish them well. You can listen for a time, but you do not absorb their sorrow. You do not set yourself on fire. to keep someone else warm. Your energy is finite, and it must be fiercely protected from those who would squander it without ever making the effort to heal. But as we observe these external patterns, we must inevitably turn the mirror toward ourselves. It is easy to analyze the weaknesses of others. It is much harder, but far more liberating, to examine our own shadows. If people are manipulating our care, why are we allowing it? Why do we care so much about the opinions of people we do not even respect? Why do we tolerate the drama, the guilt, and the noise? We often recognize these manipulative traits in others because a small part of them lives inside our own shadow. We must ask ourselves uncomfortable questions. Do we care excessively because we have a deep, unconscious need to be the savior? Do we exhaust ourselves for others because we derive our own sense of self-worth from being indispensable? This is the savior complex, and it is a subtle form of ego. We use the weakness of others to feel strong. We care about their problems as a distraction, a way to avoid looking at the unlived or unhealed aspects of our own lives. And why do we care so deeply about validation? Why does the thought of being disliked or misunderstood cause such internal panic? It is because a part of us is still terrified of rejection. We people please, we bend, we adapt our personalities to fit the room, all because we believe that if we are perfectly agreeable, we will be safe. But this is an illusion, and more darkly, it is our own subtle manipulation. When you care excessively about what someone else thinks of you, you are secretly trying to manage their mind. You are trying to control their perception of you by acting in a way you think they will approve of. It is a covert attempt at power, born of deep insecurity. We try to micromanage the thoughts of the world because we lack a solid, unshakable center within ourselves. When you truly understand this, everything changes. The moment you accept your own shadow, your own vanity, your own desire for control, your own fear of being seen as the villain, you strip the external world of its leverage over you. You realize that you have been handing the keys to your emotional state to people who do not even know how to drive their own minds. The path to psychological freedom requires the harsh, but liberating, and acceptance that you will be misunderstood. You will be the villain in someone else's story. People will project their fears onto you. They will judge you unfairly, and they will interpret your boundaries as cruelty. You must let them. You must surrender the desperate need to control your image in the minds of others. Their mind is their property. What they build in it is their responsibility, not yours. The art of not caring is fundamentally the art of mind control, but it is the control of your own mind, not the minds of others. It is the Stoic discipline of separating what is yours from what is not. Epictetus taught that the core of all human suffering is confusing what is up to us with what is not up to us. The opinions of others, the moods of your peers, the endless turning of the societal wheel. These are not up to you. To care about them is to tie your happiness to the wind, your own thoughts, your own impulses, your own boundaries, and your own chosen reactions. These are up to you. This is your inner citadel. When you withdraw your care from the meaningless noise of the external world, you pull all of your scattered energy back into this citadel. You become incredibly dense. Psychologically speaking, you become unmovable. This does not mean you walk through the world with a cold heart. The goal is not to build a massive wall around yourself, locking the entirety of humanity out in a paranoid fortress of isolation. That is just another form of fear. The goal is to build a gate and to learn, lex, through ruthless discernment, exactly who and what deserves to enter. You practice selective trust and selective care. You observe people deeply. You watch their actions, not their words. You see their hidden insecurities without judging them, but also without allowing those insecurities to become your burden. You treat the world with a calm, polite benevolence, but you reserve your deep emotional investment for the very few things that actually matter: your own purpose, your own growth, and the few individuals who have proven themselves capable of meeting you in a place of mutual respect and psychological maturity. As you step back from the need to care about everything, a profound silence will enter your life. At first, this silence might feel unnatural. You might feel a phantom urge to check the opinions of others, to seek out a drama to solve, or to worry about a perception you cannot control. But as you hold your ground, as you breathe into that silence, it will transform from emptiness into absolute sovereignty. You will realize that the less you care about the trivial, the more infinite energy you possess for the profound. You are no longer a leaf blown about by the emotional winds of the people around you. You are the tree, deeply rooted in the earth of your own self-knowledge. You understand human nature. You see the unconscious actors playing their parts on the stage, but you no longer feel compelled to jump into the play. True strength is never about dominating others. True strength is the quiet and unbreakable mastery of oneself. It is walking through a chaotic world with a calm gaze, an untouchable spirit, and the quiet and dangerous freedom of a mind that has finally learned how to let go.